Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Prepper Podcast. And we have with us today a channel member and somebody who's supported from the very beginning. And it's JD. How are you, JD?
Hello, fine. How are you?
I'm good. And let's just make this clear to our viewers to begin and listeners to begin with. You're not in America, despite the accent.
No, yeah, despite it.
Expat over here living in the UK because of our great weather, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Right, we'll jump straight in with the usual spitball questions I do at the beginning. And the first one is always, do you class yourself as a prepper?
Ooh, I kind of do now, although I think only since COVID, probably more of a survivalist than a prepper, but not really even a survivalist, more of a mother who frets.
As every mother is some sort of prepper. Yes. So why do you prep? Is it because of obviously what we went through in this country with the pandemic and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, my dad was a prepper. He was a massive prepper in the United States, and he had everything. He had water supplies and guns and knives and MREs, I think they are.
Yep.
Like enough for like 3-4 years worth. He had like a massive unit, and then he died of cancer. And when I went over there, and he always kind of told me, you need to prepare, it's going to get bad. And I kind of always downplayed it and thought, oh, you're just being right-wing nut. and then lo and behold, when he died right around COVID, and everything just started becoming more and more clear, going, oh God, he's right about this and he was right about that. And I started feeling a bit bad. And then he left me a couple of books on prepping. And I started reading them and went, it was like a light bulb moment that went, oh gosh, what happens if this does happen? And this has already happened now. So how do we prepare for the future? And then with 2 children, 2 dogs and a husband, I thought, yeah, maybe I need to start preparing more.
Yeah. So was everybody on board with that? Was the husband on board, or is it a case of he puts up with it like my missus does?
Not at first, but he got better. And now, like if we go out shopping, he'll say, well, let's pick up something this month to add to our storage. And he would never have said that a year ago, never. And now he's thoughtful. I mean, I just bought more water filtration tablets, and it was something, if I had bought that a year ago, he would have said, why are you wasting your money? And now he looked at me like, oh good, let's add it to the stores. So I'm getting him on board little by little.
I need to know your training technique for the missus. I need to. So I mean, you have seen the extremes, differences between the UK and the US prepping. How's that affect obviously, because you've seen how it's done over there. You can't, that just doesn't instantly marry over here. So how's that been for you to like adjust to a UK way of doing it?
I actually think that like the UK does it better, only in the respect that like it's not as in America, it's more of a lifestyle, and it's more of a I don't want to say a cult, because it's not a cult, but there are certain aspects of Americans who are the extreme, and they do give preppers a bad name. And I always had this stigma about it. And then when I came over here and started meeting other preppers, and it wasn't anything like that. It was just sensible preparing for 3 days of what if there's no electric? What, you can't depend on the government, no matter which country you live in. It was that. So it was in here, it's more community based as well. And I like the feeling of, no one brings each other down. No one's up there at the top saying, buy my stuff now. You must do this. The world's going to explode. Buy it, buy it, buy it. It's here. It is actually just people helping people. And that is a difference between here and the US.
Yeah, just a little disclaimer. We do have a few of them people in the UK. I'm not one of them, I hope, but
I've yet to run across them. I've not. No, I don't know them yet. So
you're lucky. They will frazzle your brain. So now, do you have something you're specifically prepping for? Because I mean, people know that I prep, and it was to do with solar flares and that kind of grid down situation. So is there something that you're preparing for, or is it just general?
While it's just general, I do have a very uneasy feeling about what's happening in Europe. And we do know what happens when there's issues with transportation and supplies. So I know that might be affected if everything escalates and snowballs in Europe. And I don't really classify UK as Europe. It's kind of different in its own right. But there's these knock-on effects, and I've seen them in the food supply chain for, say, dogs, and it's already there. It's harder and harder to get your favorite food for your dogs or your medicine for your dogs because there is a supply chain issue in Europe. And as it got more and more and more, I thought, oh God, I don't want to be left out when, what if all the supply chain breaks down? And that's a possible thing. Look at COVID. I don't want to be stranded without. I mean, we already went without toilet paper. So that won't happen again.
I've got a room dedicated to toilet paper. No,
we have a bidet now.
So So obviously the reason the pet supplies are a big thing for you is because of what you do. Do you want to explain what it is you actually do?
I do a little bit of everything. So I am a groomer, a dog trainer. I do mainly assistance, autism assistance and seizure alert. I do a lot of puppy training. I'm about to do a massive course from Steve Mann called the Easy Peasy Puppy Training Course. And I'll be a easy peasy puppy trainer. And I go into people's homes and I set them up with a puppy and say, this is what you need to do. And this is to make it all run smoothly. I'm also a Kennel Club show handler, and I show Cocker Spaniels. And just, everything dog. I've owned a daycare in the past as well. Lots of experience with animal behavior, and health is a major concern of mine, being that I'm a show handler.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a big thing for me. I've got a cat. I didn't choose to have a cat. I'm a dog person, but the cat came with the missus. All right. We're operating a 1 out, 1 in policy. So I'll get a dog eventually. I'm trying to encourage it to play on the road, but it's not listening. I'm not. I'm honestly not. It's an indoor cat. No, don't jump on me for that one. But yeah, I have a cat, and I've thought about the prepping side of things. And obviously I've got a supply of food, not loads, but enough if we needed to for a couple of weeks. But they're quite self-sufficient cats in the fact that even though he's indoor, if it came to it and I let him out, he'd find a rat, a bird or something, so
easily. Cats go feral very, very quickly. And I think people seem to think that dogs can go feral, but that's actually not the case. Dogs actually don't go feral as quickly as people think they do. Hence why sometimes you'll see a runaway dog and they look half starved, because some dogs actually do not have the instinct to hunt. And it is what it is.
Is that through years of being so domesticated and generations?
That inbred for purpose. So you'll often get mixed dogs as well. So if you have something like a cockapoo, you have a poodle mixed with a cocker, they're not going to have that same instinct that a purebred cocker is going to have. So it's a little, and they're more, they're not used in the field as much. So they're more like a family pet. They're not really a purpose-built dog. Because they're a mixed breed. So it really depends on the dog as to how well they're going to survive feral. And nowadays, not many would, because most of them are just completely big house pets.
Yeah. So do you see benefits as a prepper to own a dog? Obviously, the obvious one to me would be security. Everyone's scared of a big Alsatian barking at you. But do the benefits outweigh the negatives? Because that's a difficult thing when it comes to stealth and all sorts.
So to me, there's pros and cons of this, and one of them is, the con to me is the barking, because as soon as you have a dog, and it doesn't matter if it's a small dog or a big dog, it's going to draw attention when it starts barking. And if you are trying to lay low and hide and not draw attention, you've just ruined it with the barking. So a major thing I think a lot of preppers need to do is, if you do have a dog, and if you plan on keeping a dog, you need to train it to be quiet. And that is not an easy thing with a lot of breeds. So keep up training while you're not in a SHTF situation is key. Because you want it to be able to stay quiet at all times, especially if there's a stranger around your house that you don't want it to bark at. I mean, if you have a small gun dog like I do, a cocker, I ain't not going to do anything to a stranger coming in the house.
Yeah.
But its barking could give us away. So we've been working a lot on quiet.
Right. Okay. I mean, that must be difficult to train when it's related to strangers, especially.
Yeah.
It's all right training a dog to be quiet around people they know, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
is key to that. Do you think training is key? If you're going to be a prepper with an animal, I think training is a must.
Well, I think training is a must, even if you're not a prepper, because I'm a trainer. So why get a dog?
I want your money.
But yeah, I think that a top one would be, find a breed that's built for purpose. Don't go for a mixed breed on that. Go for a purebred breed. Find it for the purpose you want it, and I'll go over that in a second. But one preferably that is easy for your level to train, or know that you have to put some money into that to train that with a real trainer, someone who's qualified, like APDT, IMDT, KCAI, not just any run-of-the-mill dog trainer that gets something off the internet and says, "Oh, I'm a dog trainer." Yeah. So, yeah.
I'm guessing you have a lot of them.
Well, I'm working towards IMDT. I don't have my full IMDT yet. So, but hopefully really, really, really soon. But it takes a long time to become a really good dog trainer and to have a lot of patience.
Yeah. So you mentioned selecting the breeds.
Yes.
Obviously, I mean, if I, as somebody with no idea, and I want a dog for prepping, I'm thinking big scary dog. That's the breed I'm thinking. You know, what would you say is considerations for that?
Okay, so there's two things here, and one is if you want a dog who's going to be a good guard dog, you're looking at something like a German Shepherd, which is kind of an all-arounder, easy to train. They're generally really good with a family. And they will protect, or a Rottweiler, and they are lovely dogs who are easy to train. They can be a little bit stubborn, so they do need consistent training. Generally really good with a family. What I wouldn't go down the route is something like a Cane Corso or an XL Bully, obviously, for a lot of reasons in the UK right now, or any bull breed for that matter, because you're not just using this dog during an SHTF situation. This dog's going to be part of your family for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
So you have to really, if you're going to get a dog for prepping, make sure that you're getting it for the whole time, not just for a bad situation. Yeah. Now, saying that, those breeds like a German Shepherd or a Rottweiler, they will protect you, and you can train them to protect you on command and come right back. It takes a lot of money to do that. But they're not going to go out there and help you any other way. They're going to just kind of guard what you have, and that's not a bad thing. But mind you, they're also big dogs, and big dogs take food.
Yes.
So you have to be able to understand that you have to prep for their food needs as well. So if you only have enough to supply your family for, well, the dog, unfortunately, is going to have to take a back seat in this. So the bigger the dog, the more the food. And also, if you're stuck inside, an event happens like a chemical event and you're indoors and you can't leave the house for 3 weeks, what happens to that dog's poo?
Yeah.
It's another thing to consider right there. I myself really like the idea of the hunting dogs, your setters, your retrievers, your spaniels, because they're actually really good, nice purpose dogs. They're easy to train. They're very friendly. They make great pets year round. So even if you're not in a situation, you have like the golden retriever. I mean, you can't get any better than a golden. They're really nice to retrieve and hunt and flush with, or a cocker, although I wouldn't suggest a cocker for anyone with small kids because they are very driven dogs. And those kind of dogs are going to be able to flush pheasants. They're going to be able to grab a duck. And, my cockers can grab squirrels. So if we were starving and there's a squirrel out there, my cockers might be able to get it for me if I'm trained enough.
Is that instinctual with them, or is that has to be trained as well?
No, it is both. So it is instinctual in a well-bred dog. And what you're looking for is a dog that's pedigree, that has a nice line going back. You'll see it on its kennel club papers. Never buy a purebred dog that doesn't come with kennel club papers if you're looking at it for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Different if it's a pet, but if it's bred for actually driving or like flushing or hunting or retrieving, you're going to want a good KC dog from a really good breeder who's health checked the parents and have done everything they have done to make sure that you have a healthy dog who's well driven to that sport. So that to me would be an ideal dog for, like, say your family, you have two or three young children.
Mm-hmm.
I would say a golden retriever would actually be your better bet. I know you're thinking, oh no, I want a Staffy.
I used to have a Staffy. I did. I was funny when you were mentioning the different breeds, and I put a note about I had a Staffy, and she was lovely with family, with kids, protective, everything. Yeah. Scared stiff of other dogs. Even like a little Yorkshire Terrier runs past it, used to hide behind me. That was just a weird thing with it. But yeah, it seemed like, and that was no training. That was just the nature.
Yeah. Staffies can be a bit of a hit or a miss sometimes, because when people think of a Staffy, sometimes they have this picture of what actually is a XL bully, like a bigger kind of bred bulldog. But Staffies are actually, if you look on, like, say, if you Google Crufts Staffies, Staffordshire Bull Terrier, you're going to find a very compact, small dog who's purposely built. And it's very cobby in structure almost as it walks. And it is quite muscular, but it is small. Mm-hmm. It's not a large dog. And I think people, when they were breeding for pets, bred up and up and up and up until you get to this Staffy that is leggy and massive and not bred for purpose.
Yeah, yeah. So it's all about the pedigree of the breeds. Yeah, I always thought that was purely based the looks of the dogs. You know, you want a pretty dog, you get a KT register. You know,
no, it is nice to be able to trace its ancestry, but also within that, you have health testing, because that's a massive thing that needs to always be looked at. So if you are looking at a dog to buy in any situation, whether it be for prepping or as a pet, you want to make sure that both parents are health tested, eye tested, hip tested if needed, because chances are you could be getting a dog that, great, looks cute as a puppy, really first couple of years are great. You get to an SHT situation and all of a sudden it's got hip dysplasia. Well, what are you going to do then? Because you ain't going to get a vet to fix that during that time. So
that's going to be old yellow.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be really, really careful about it.
Yeah. There's certain breeds as well that are prone to different things. I mean, I've heard things about pugs, that the fact that they're bred for the looks, but it's not healthy. It's not a healthy breed of dog.
No, but and pugs, they're companion dogs. I don't know why anyone would get a pug for prepping except for as a companion, because and that is a thing. I mean, if you are on your own and you need a dog, fair dues. You know, if you want to get a pug or a Shih Tzu or a Chihuahua, Satan's dog, or for companionship during that kind of scenario, fantastic. But like the pugs and the shorter breeds, like the French Bulldog, they have to be tested for how brachycelic they are, or else you will have a dog who might not bark at someone coming into your house, but oh my God, they can hear him breathing a mile away.
Yeah, English Bulldogs are very similar to that. They snore worse than I do, and that's saying something. So yeah, you were talking about the food before, and some of these big dogs, the amount of storage you must need, though. Would you recommend prepping the same, whatever you're doing for yourself, to do the same for the dog? Because, I mean, if you've got a year's supply for your family, that's a lot of dog food to go alongside it.
It is. And the thing about dog food is dog food can actually go off quite quickly compared to human food. It's not kind of kept the same way ours is. It's a different whole grade of food, and it doesn't have those quality controls that we have as humans. So you do have to be careful. I generally say, I have in essence, like my dogs are on a specific brand of food. I use Wellness Core. I love it. It works well for them. But I also have a little extra supply of really crap food. And it is like Tesco's simple value dog food. Now, I would never want to feed my dog that food on a normal basis in a million years. However, it does have a shelf life of a little bit longer, I find. So I can stock it for about 6 months. And then at the 6-month mark, I go take that dog food and I give it to charity and say, right, this is going to feed someone who's at their wits' ends.
Yeah.
And then I replenish my stock every 6 months so that they have something. Because the food that they normally eat is so expensive that I don't want to waste it by accidentally forgetting that it's in the cupboard or whatever. So,
I like that idea, because that's very similar to us ourselves. You know, you might stock a load of freeze dry food like I've got back there. You might stock smart price beans, but day to day you're not going to eat that because you eat better food. So it's kind of on that same sort of thinking. It's budget versus
and I mean, some people raw feed their dogs. I tried it. If it works for people, great. Didn't work for my dogs, so we stopped raw feeding. And they do make freeze-dried raw now, I think. So, and I think that may have a longer shelf life possibly. So if you do raw feed, check how your best before date and everything, and make sure that it has an extended shelf life on that. Because what you don't want to do is take a raw fed dog and switch it to Tesco's Finest, because that's not going to work for your dog. It's going to make them very sick.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people might find themselves in the situation of all they've got for the dog is leftovers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is there a way, I don't even know if this is a thing or if I'm just making it up, but is there a way to supplement that? Is there, like, obviously we have supplements as humans, multivitamins, things like that. If it got to the situation where you've run out of dog food and you're giving them bits and bats and whatever you can find, hunt, scavenge, is there a supplement that they could stockpile that would last longer?
Not necessarily. Well, there are some vitamins out there. There are some companies that do sell them. There is a fantastic company called Door West who does a whole multitude of stuff for your dog's health, and it really benefits them. However, most of your dog's nutrients are going to come from its just basic food that it's on. And you do have to be careful about what you are adding in. So if it comes down to the fact that your dog's got to eat something from your own stores, right? You've run out of everything. You need to avoid things like garlic and onion. You need to avoid anything that's really too oily or too fatty, because that's going to play up on them. So you're going to want to stick to anything that's bland and basic. So rice, chicken, pasta is even okay in a that kind of situation. Yeah. They can eat fruit and veg. That's absolutely fine. And dogs get a lot out of it. A really good thing to give them is bone, but it can't be roasted. It has to be just a raw bone. Because you don't want it to splinter on them, because dogs do take the calcium from the bone when they process them.
Right. Okay. So you don't cook them up. They're just literally.
No. I mean, for some food, like if my dogs are having a treat, I will, boil some chicken and then maybe steam some broccoli or something on the side for them so that my dogs eat like princesses.
Sounds like they eat better than me.
Yeah. And if I have a litter of puppies, then the mum is just on, steak and salmon and chicken and all sorts of veg and fruit and everything. That's really balancing her out, plus her normal dog food, because if she's having to nurse, then she needs all those extra calories put in. So you have to kind of look at the whole dog and what that dog's needs is. And everyone's different, every dog. So the most important thing you could do to prepare for that is actually get your dog to a vet and get them checked to make sure that they're healthy going in, that they're fully vaccinated. And my God, people need to check microchips, because that in the event of a situation, your dog runs away, you do want to get your dog back eventually some point. And the amount of microchips that are not registered, that are missing, is unreal. So the one thing everyone can do to prepare is check your microchip. Yeah.
Cool.
And keep up to date on vaccinations. There was something actually about that I found that was actually quite interesting. So do you know that if anything really bad happens and you can't get to your vet, as long as your dog's up to date on the vaccinations, there's something you can store for this, and it's called a nosode. And it's like a tiny little bit of the fecal matter of the virus. And it's like in a little pill form. And they actually do have it for things like parvovirus, leptospirosis, and distemper, because if it got really bad and you have rats everywhere, the last thing you want is your dog getting sick from that. So stocking no-sows is a really good way to prepare for that.
Excellent. That's cool. So on that subject, obviously the vets, as much as they like to stay open all the time because they charge me the earth to chop the leg off a cat.
Don't they?
If it came to that situation, can you stockpile essential? We obviously, as humans, we want to stockpile our painkillers and our over-the-counter meds, and obviously people who can. You can get antibiotics. Everyday Prepper has a video on about that, how you can get antibiotics and stuff. What about the same for your pet?
There are a lot of things you can stockpile on this. Things like garlic and fenugreek from Door West, which is a natural anti-flea kind of medication. It's also an anti-inflammatory as well. There's neem oil, which helps with fleas, because fleas and ticks are going to be a massive concern. You don't want a house full of fleas in that kind of situation.
No, I've had it. It's horrible.
There's things like you can get what is it called? Luciline, which is like a spray, an antibacterial spray. So if, for instance, you're out hunting with your dog and your dog got hurt, what do? Well, you're going to need something in there. Now, it's very hard to get antibiotics for dogs without a vet's prescription. So it's hard to stockpile antibiotics, and no one should be giving an antibiotic to a dog without a vet's prescription anyways. But in that respect, there are things like Luciline, things like no-sows. They really can help if there's no vet available at that point to help your pet.
Yeah.
And they make them not just for dogs, they make them for cats. So yeah.
On that subject, I know you put a little subnote in the email you sent to me that you were doing some research into potassium iodide for dogs. I assume that's for the in case of fallout kind of thing. Did you get anything from that? I mean, I was wondering if it was based on weight.
I got a little bit of interesting stuff from I think it was the University of Maryland that may have done it. I have to double check that, or North Carolina, one of the two. And they did do a little bit of research on the effects of radiation on dogs using potassium iodide. And it is, much like humans with our age, it's a 50-50. So there is a chart. I think I read it somewhere, and I didn't actually write the chart down because I don't know if I would give it to my dogs after reading the effects. So in essence, you can really hurt your dog if you give too much potassium iodide. You could kill your dog by giving them too much. However, by not giving them any, they could also get sick.
The same effect as we have, yeah.
So in essence, what the university is saying is there's no concrete evidence. It's kind of a 50-50, but it does work. It does flood the thyroid, but you have to get the dosage right. And you can't give it to really, really young dogs, like puppies under, say, 6 months, or really old dogs over the age of, like, say, 6 years. And I don't think 6 years is very old for a dog. I have a 3-year-old and just gone 7-year-old dog. And I probably give it to the 3-year-old, but not the 7-year-old.
Right.
Because also, what's the use of prolonging her life?
Yeah.
She's already old.
Yeah.
So it's
at that point it's alleviating suffering more than anything else, right?
And you'd also need a measurement thing to do it. So it goes by grams per kilo of dog. And it was like really, really minute. It was like 0.0 something per kilo. And I thought, how the hell could you measure that with a potassium iodide tablet? You'll have to sit there and break it down and smush it down like cocaine almost, like measure it out to see how much are you going to give your dog.
Well, I mean, it needs must in that situation, I guess. But, I mean, so that's going to be a case of at an owner's discretion then, isn't it?
It really is. It really is.
I mean, plan one would be don't let them get out in the fallout, right? You know.
Yes, and it can get on their hair. So don't forget that if you're coming in from fallout and you have to get in the shower, so does your dog. And don't use conditioner, just shampoo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm glad you found something on that because I was quite interested in that myself. Dogs, we've done. You've already chose which dog I'm getting. It's sorted.
What about go for the golden retriever?
I don't. I've got to convince her that we don't need this cat that just doesn't want to.
But Goldens get along with cats so well.
Oh no, I want one that'll eat it.
Oh, we used to have a cat that my daughter ended up with really, really severe allergies, and our cat now lives in Scotland with my sister-in-law. So
well, this one has been pampered and mothered, and when I first met her, she used to cradle him like a baby. But now he's just a spoilt brat because of it. Just like kids, if you pamper them, they're going to end up as a spoilt brat. But yeah. Any other pets to consider?
Okay. So we don't have just dogs in our house. We actually have rats as well, and these are pet rats who have been clicker trained and can, do tricks and everything. And rats are pretty self-efficient. So I always thought, well, in that kind of situation, just let the rats go do rat things. But
I don't do rats.
No, so rodents, they kind of can self-contain themselves, I guess, a little bit. Maybe not a hamster. Maybe you also have to think about if it's a really bad situation, like, a radioactive situation, you have to think what's in the best interest of your pet.
Yeah.
But I also thought about things like snakes and lizards and fish, because they require electricity to actually live, because you need to heat them or you need a water pump. Mm-hmm. So the fish, I don't see any way, unless you have a solar battery pack that can power your aquarium. I don't know how you're going to deal with that. With the snake or lizard, they do make heating stones that can heat really quickly using fire. So they're kind of like, I was looking at them and I didn't order one yet, but I'm thinking about doing it because you can cook on them. And I thought, I wonder how hot that gets. And I'm wondering if you could actually use something like that to keep a snake or a lizard alive during that kind of situation, or at least for a few days. So if we're out of electricity for, say, a week, you need to keep that snake warm and that lizard warm. You need to keep outside the box.
Definitely. I think if you've got a pet that relies on something like that, I think alternative power should be one of your main concerns. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I thought of geese. Ooh. Because farmers have attack geese, and they have them purely because they're loud and they run at you and they shout, and
But I'm going to embarrass my husband right now because he's actually scared to death of swans.
Oh, it's okay. That's a family trait with us as well. My stepdad lost half a thumbnail to a swan.
Oh, I won't tell my husband that. He's really scared. He sees a swan, he'll panic. He will turn around and run. He's just like, nope, can't deal with that. But you also have eggs from geese. So that's actually a pet that a lot of preppers maybe should think about if they have the space.
Yeah, definitely. They'll probably do more attack damage than a chicken. So
yeah, there is that.
Well, I mean, I'm out of notes there. So unless you had any further points to add for our audience.
In prepping storage as well, it's also a good idea to think about things like pumpkin powder and slippery elm, because those are things that help relieve bowel issues like constipation or diarrhea. Okay. And if your dog has just gone on to a really crap food, you're going to need that. Okay. So that's a good one for that. I've got a flea and tick. I think that's pretty much about it. First aid, colloidal silver. You just stockpile colloidal silver because it's good for not just your dog, but you. I found it fantastic. Antiseptic sprays and just a tick remover as well. A lot of people don't have these in their houses, and it's the most common thing you'll ever use is a tick remover.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna have to come to you for a shopping list if I do get this dog. Right. So yeah, I appreciate you being on here. You give us some great knowledge there.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Anybody else wants to discuss anything to do with prepping for their pets, you can join me on the forums. Hopefully JD will make her way over there as well at some point. ukprep.co.uk, and you can ask any further questions on there. Also, if you see me live, she's usually in the chat box, so there you go. Yep, that's it from me. Would you like to say goodbye to everyone?
Yeah. Bye everyone, thank you so much.
Thank you from me, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.
Bye.